And joining us for some developments on this breaking news is Naghmeh Abedini. Our viewers here at CBN News know her very well because for the last 4 years, her precious husband, Pastor Saeed Abedini, has been in one of the worst prisons in Iran. And she just got the news about the release of her husband. Naghmeh joins us for this breaking news. Naghmeh, can you take us through the whole process? When did you hear? How did you hear about this?
Well, yesterday we heard that Saeed was moved out of his cell by the intelligence police, and we had we felt like that was an indication for his release. Then this morning, I got calls from people in Iran saying that the Iranian government had announced that they had released 4 Americans. From there, I got a call from State Department confirming that, and that they were trying to get Saeed out of U.S. soil, which now I believe he's in Switzerland, heading to Germany. And as soon as I could confirm that, I woke up my kids 7:30 in the morning, our time, Mountain Time, and told them that Daddy was coming home. And it was.
Can you tell our viewers? Give us a sort of a picture of what that was like in the Abedini household this morning when you walked into your children's room. What did you say? And please, if you can, share with us their response.
They were just, they got out of bed, even though it was 7:30 on a weekend, they jumped up and they were jumping up and down, rejoicing. It was very loud, very joyful, and I could see a heavy weight lifted off their little shoulders. And I felt the same way, that 3.5 years of, advocacy had come to an end, and he was coming home. I can't express how joyful it was.
Sure. How did you tell your children, Naghmeh?
They were sleeping, and I just went to their bed and I said, Daddy's out of jail. He will be coming home soon. And they just got up. They weren't, usually when I try to wake them up, they're, leave us alone. We're sleeping. They just jumped out of bed, and every hour they've been asking me, when is he coming home? Is it now? Is it today? And so I've contacted, I was able to talk to State and try to figure out if it's today or another day, or if we need to fly somewhere, or if he will be coming here.
So can you confirm to us here on CBN News that he is indeed in Switzerland? And secondly, have you spoken to him?
No, as soon as he is in our government said he needs to go through some medical process of being checked. And once he goes through that, they're going to give him an access to phone, and I'll be able to hear from him.
Can you describe?
Within a few hours.
Sure, Naghmeh, can you describe to us your emotions? What have you been going through? I know that you got a tip a few days ago from the State Department that this was in the works. Can you describe to us just the emotions that you've been going through in the last 72 hours?
Well, over the last 3 years, there's been so much ups and downs. I just have to say, Lord, I give it to you. If he's coming home, then, I just had to not have my hopes so high and then be disappointed again. Once I heard it, I was just praying. I've been actually going through a 3-week fast, and just praying and saying, God, it's in your hands, and I trust you. And trusting that the process of him you reuniting with our family and the healing process is in God's hand, and He's gonna work everything out, and whatever condition Saeed is in.
Can you talk a little bit about that healing process? I know, obviously, you haven't seen your husband in almost 3.5 years. Have you even began to process that, or not?
I haven't. I don't even know what to think. I think once he's home, we need to see where we're at and what condition he's at, and go from there. I know that just us being together as a family, there will be healing that comes from that, and for the kids. And so it's just taking a step after that, and just taking it, I guess, as it comes. But knowing that there will need to be a healing process. He's gone through a lot the last 3.5 years.
Sure. Can you speak to the millions of people around the world, literally, who have stood in the gap for your husband? Can you describe the sort of impact that prayer has had on his release on this historic day? And what would you say to those millions who stood and never gave up hope on your husband?
You know, outside of my faith in Jesus Christ, I'm so thankful for the millions who prayed, who trusted God with me, who did not give up, who would send me messages and letters saying, we're not giving up, we have not forgotten him, we have his picture on our fridge. It just, honestly, there were many times that I wanted to give up and throw in the towel. And those messages is what kept me going and kept the hope alive, both for me and for Saeed also.
You know, an issue that has come up in the last 2-3 months has been the sort of personal turmoil that you have gone through. Naghmeh, you posted several months ago that you were taking a break from advocating for your husband's release, and some personal issues that Saeed was dealing with that you shared with the rest of the world. Can you talk about how that revelation figures into this dramatic news today, and your own turmoil that you've been going through and that you have shared to some extent with the audience?
Well, I shared with some personal friends and some issues, personal issues, and it was, it got out to everyone else. But it's real. The reality is that we're not heroes. Jesus is the only hero. He's our only example, and we're broken people with issues. And my brokenness has allowed me to understand other people who've gone through similar struggles and abuse in their own relationships. So we're both broken people. I'm proud of Saeed for having stood for his faith, never wavering, and that's the beautiful part. But there's always, everyone knows that there's the good and the bad. And unfortunately, I didn't want the bad to be out there, but it's out there, and there needs to be change that has not been in the last, 11 years of our marriage, and there needs to be healing. And in the last 3 years, God got me strong enough to be able to say, you know what, I love my husband. I never stopped advocating for him, even behind scenes. I always did, even though I stopped the media. I was working with our government, with different governments, trying to get him out. So I love him, but there's serious issues that we need to deal with once he's home.
Can you talk a little bit about the role the United States has played, the White House, President Obama, Secretary of State John Kerry? I know that you went through many, many, many months of frustration, just a lack of information from these two individuals, whether it was the White House or the State Department. What would you say to President Obama, to Secretary of State John Kerry?
The first 6 months of his imprisonment, it took a lot to get State Department involved. After 6 months of continuous media and speaking before our Congress is when John Kerry came out and mentioned Saeed's name for the first time and called on the Iranian government to release him. But since then, the ball has been rolling, and I'm really thankful. The last year has been great, constant communication with State Department. I met with President Obama about a year ago, and he said, we will get him out. It might take some time. And so I am thankful for their efforts and all the support we did receive from State Department and the White House.
How can our viewers pray for you in this new chapter of this ordeal with your husband hours away, possibly from being home? How do we pray? How does the world pray for the Abedini family?
Pray for healing and this time of transition. It's great news he's out, but our family will have to go through some transition, and just prayer for that time and for Saeed's healing and healing in our family, and that this time of transition, God would just take us step by step through it.
My final question to you, you know that this was a prisoner swap. Our understanding is that 6 Iranian Americans have been released in exchange for the 4 men, including your husband, perhaps even more other Americans. And in addition to the six Iranian Americans, our understanding is that there may be at least 14 others whose names have been removed from a banned list. How do you feel that these individuals have, in essence, been exchanged for the release of your husband?
You know, I'm glad these are people who've broken sanction laws. Part of me is glad that it's not, you know, people who've committed terror attacks. With my constant communication with State Department, I mentioned that it would not be, and Saeed didn't want that he's innocent. He was arrested just because of his Christian faith, and for the swap to be something unreasonable. And so I'm glad, I guess, to see that it was more of an even swap, that it was not, initially Iran had ridiculous requests on people. And so in a way, I'm glad that it did happen this way. I would have, of course, wanted Iran to just release the Americans without anything, because the entire international community and human rights community knew that they had broken no human rights. We had a Jason Rezaian, a reporter, a pastor, people who were arrested simply because they were a reporter or a pastor, and not because they'd broken any law. So they should have just been released. But if this is how it worked out, it's okay.
Naghmeh Abedini, I know that I probably echo the sentiments of millions of people around the world who are rejoicing with you and your precious children on this historic day, a dramatic day, announcing that your husband has been set free along with other Americans being held in Iran. We are so grateful. We thank God for this. And we will continue definitely to pray for you, your husband, and your children as you enter this next stage of your lives. Naghmeh Abedini, thank you so much for joining us here on CBN News.
Thank you. God bless.